Hello, and welcome to another episode of Manic Mondays. This is a weekly series where I release a different video every Monday based on either what I'm playing or just what I want to talk about that's a little bit different from the Sunday or Thursday series. This week I wanted to talk about an indie game that I just completed called Metamorphosis. In Metamorphosis, you play as Gregor Samsa, who, after a night of drinking with his best friend Josef, wakes to find himself turned into a bug. This story sends you on a mystery-filled journey of surreal environments and situations, all while you battle against bureaucracy and the mountain of red tape between you and returning to human form. This game was developed by Ovid Works, a Polish indie game studio based in Warsaw, Poland. This studio opened its doors in 2015 and have made a handful of products based purely on their passion that are often tied strongly to literature. And Metamorphosis is no different, as the premise is derived entirely from a novella by the same name written by Franz Kafka and published in 1915. In said novella, the main character, also named Gregor Samsa, is turned into a giant cockroach and explores how this impacts Gregor's life and relationships. While the literary analysis runs deep with this novella, the similarities between it and the game pretty much end there. In Metamorphosis, instead of a giant bug, you are, well, the bug-sized bug, who must make their way to a mysterious destination known only as Tower. Along the way, you encounter a variety of other bugs who were once presumably human as well. These bugs range from religious fanatics to burly bodyguards to prostitutes and even mafiosos. Without revealing too much of the plot, Metamorphosis does an excellent job of making you feel trapped by your circumstance. While Gregor is constantly aiding bugs with their troubles on his journey, seldom does he receive aid himself. In the end, it is only Gregor who can change the course of his situation. This game was a true delight, from the soundtrack to the wacky environments to the absurdity of being a bug and having to still deal with the slow grind of bureaucracy in an attempt to become free of your exoskeleton. I found myself laughing, rolling my eyes, and rushing to see what happened next as the story progressed. For those like myself who do prefer a more in-depth analysis that is accompanied by a numbered score, I'll go a little more in-depth with my overall thoughts and feelings on Metamorphosis as a whole. So this was actually the 28th game that I completed this year, and I keep a running spreadsheet of all the games that I beat in a year just so that I can compare and contrast and see what sort of games I liked and what sort of new titles that I've tried. And I ranked them all on 5 separate categories. The first category is story. I asked myself, is the story told actually worthwhile? Are there twists and turns that were unexpected? And how engaging and immersive is the plot? Now, each category is rated from a 1 to 5, obviously 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. So, in the case of Metamorphosis, I felt like the story was a solid 4. I did feel like this was a worthwhile story. I was engaged the entire time. There were twists and turns that I did not expect. It was mysterious throughout. And the ending really was something that I have been looking for in a title like this for a while. The next category is gameplay. So usually it's how smooth is the gameplay? Are there unique mechanics that stand out? Is it something that's clunky? Is it hard to get into? Is it difficult to learn? So for Metamorphosis, I gave this a 3, which again, that's very middle of the road. Because while it was a unique premise, I will say that it didn't do much by way of creative gameplay. Now, as the bug, you do have the ability to occasionally stick to surfaces and climb upside down and sideways and that sort of thing. And obviously, being that small in an environment so large, you do have to kind of work around that. But for the most part, it was pretty much just walk, jump, run, and click. So there wasn't anything that I felt like stood out to be exceptional. However, it was a fun time, and I didn't feel like I was bogged down by an excessive amount of controls or schemes, and I was able to get through it fairly easily. So that's why that got a 3. The next category is a little controversial in my opinion. I label it as graphics, but it's more graphics and performance. So the graphics section encompasses graphics and performance, like I said. And while the graphical fidelity is not the most important in a game, it does play into the experience, especially nowadays. And I'm not talking like, was it 16-bit or was it full 3D or this or that? Like, I have played such a wide range of games, and there is beauty in all styles of art. So for this specifically, with Metamorphosis, I give it a 4 because the art was very storybook. It reminded me a lot of maybe Dishonored, which I don't know if other people feel the same, but it was nice and it looked handcrafted. It looked as though someone had drawn the world themselves, and as though each character had genuine thought and detail put into them. The next of the 5 categories is depth. So how deep are the characters in the world? do you care about the characters? Can you get lost in the world? As far as Metamorphosis, I did feel like this was more of a 3 than anything. I felt, again, Gregor is about as deep as you would expect from a protagonist who hardly speaks, especially once he turns into a bug. He repeats a lot of the same words, and his goals are your goals. The only goal being return back to human form. So I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of depth in his character. And again, that can be scrutinized and analyzed in a completely different way, and maybe someone else feels differently. But as far as general depth of the world and the characters, I didn't feel like it was really all there. So that it got a 3 from me, which again is not bad, but I wouldn't say that it was outstanding or anything out of the ordinary from other stories that I've experienced. The final category is replayability. Any game that is going to last a long time has to be replayable, whether it's through the use of collectibles or other tasks or side quests or multiple choices that lead you down one path or another. Replayability is key in today's environment, where there are so many games and people are so quickly completing one and moving on to the other, especially one like Metamorphosis, where it's only like a 2.5, 3 hour experience. It's essentially the same as sitting down and watching a movie, except you're playing through the movie. So for Metamorphosis, I actually gave this a 1 out of 5. I feel like the story itself is one where once you've completed it, you've seen everything there is to see. There are some collectible aspects. There are little totems that you can break and get certain achievements for things like that. And there are moments that stand out that if you stick around and linger in a room long enough, you'll see different interactions with other characters. But there wasn't anything that I feel like I missed out on that if I never play this game again in my life, I'll have missed out on the experience. I feel as, it was very on the rails, and it was intentional that way. I mean, it's essentially you're playing through a narrative, and that's all it's trying to be. It's not trying to be anything more than that. Now, there are other existential questions that come along with it, and the, hypocrisy and absurdity of the world that we live in, and putting that down into the scale of a bug and seeing just how silly it really is whenever these are creatures that a normal human would like smash or swipe off a table or kick out of their home. But in this game, they're still dealing with the same things that we are on the surface. So it was fun and it was exciting. And again, I really enjoyed the experience all the way through. But with all 5 categories, whenever I averaged that score out, it got a solid 3 out of 5. So again, it's a pretty neutral rating. I do still recommend it for anybody that wants a change of pace or that is looking for a game that, is only a 2 to 3 hour experience where you're essentially playing through a novel. And that's exactly what this felt like. And it was fun. I enjoyed myself. I'm really happy that I played it from beginning to end. And I do feel like Ovid Works has something special here. Now, from what I could find, this was the most recent game that they've released, and this was in 2020. So, we're almost 5 years past that now. So I do hope that they continue to produce games in the future. I don't really know what the outlook of the studio is, but I'm definitely going to be going back to their backlog and checking out some of the older tales, which, from what I've gathered in my research, are very similar to Metamorphosis in style and theme. If you're new to this channel and liked what you see, please leave a like and hit the subscribe button for more content like this. We'll be back with another Manic Monday episode next week, so I'll see you then.